If you're watching the stream, you got to turn it to your left, Farhan, a little bit. To your left.
There you go.
Left more. Who's Taylor Swift anyway? What a T-shirt. Are you wearing that around Vancouver today and this weekend?
Actually, a friend of mine just made it. Our next door neighbor just made it for my daughter because I'm taking her to the concert tonight. So, I got tickets for my daughter, and I was foolishly going to go, but she was kind. She didn't say she didn't want me to go, but it was kind of one of those, sure, Dad, yeah, that would be great.
We know
it's kind of one of those, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we have a family friend who's like 19 or 20 and is a big Swiftie, so I'm going to drive the two of them to the concert, drop them off early, and then I'm going to the Canuck game to cover that, and then I will stick around and wait for the concert to end, because it's apparently 3.5 hours, boys, like 3.5 hours. And then we'll bring them home way after their bedtime. But fortunately, tomorrow's a Saturday. My dog just walked into the room, and she doesn't want to go to Taylor Swift.
I'm looking up right now, see what's the latest. The last picture I got, they're down by the water. Yesterday, there was flights of beer for the mums. They were trying out flights of beer at somewhere. And then they were at a shoe store. I don't even know what's going on there with my two. But though, like, in all seriousness, and you're there, you're living it. When we had Brett Kissel on yesterday, and he talked, and he said, this is going to go down, this Eras Tour. Like, they'll be talking about this 10, 20, 30 years down the road in that same kind of realm of like a Woodstock, right? It's like, did you go to the Eras Tour? Did you go to the Eras Tour, right? Yeah. And that's what it's going to be about, Farhan. And I'm sure you're seeing that city, and you got to drop them off and go. The traffic there's got to be crazy.
Yeah, they've had a bunch of roads that are going to be closed for this tonight, so it limits your access. And there's a security perimeter outside the stadium before you can even get inside the doors of the stadium. And I was in Vegas this year for the Achtung concert, Achtung Baby, the U2 concert, which is their last one, but it's not the same, and the venue's not nearly as big. For me, I think the last thing like this, you got to go back to the '80s for the Michael Jackson Victory Tour. And they had 3 nights of that at BC Place, and I was at 2 of them. And we didn't have social media back then, and it was still different in terms of the buildup and what goes on around it. But this is pretty special. To be quite honest, I'm surprised she couldn't sway the U.S. election. Like, she is that big. It's amazing.
It is. It's like, go online and try and even find a secondary market ticket.
Dude, they're actually going to have the souvenir, like the merch area is going to be down at Canada Place, which is a mile away from the stadium, right? Like, they've separated that out altogether. So all the street vendors, that's all gone. It's all down at Canada Place. So, like, that's different, right? That's different.
The perimeter, the security perimeter, that's very Super Bowl-ish, where you go through a security to even get to security. It's and then the first Super Bowl went to in Arizona. And then all of a sudden you look up and there's a helicopter, like literally that's like 20 feet above your head with the guys hanging out with the guns. Like, you feel so safe. Yeah. Like, everyone's like, oh my, you're going to be terrorist. It's like, the safest place in the world is what you feel. Right. Okay. People are.
This is how big it is, guys. This is how big it is. Last weekend, we had the BC High School Football Championships at BC Place. So normally we have 5 games all across the Saturday. Well, this time, the stadium decided to give us Friday for free so that we could have 3 of our games on Friday and be out of there by like 3 o'clock on Saturday so the Taylor Swift Tour could start moving in. They actually moved the high school championships to accommodate Taylor Swift.
Yeah, well, she's moving everything, right? Like, it's unbelievable.
There you go.
What do you think Trevor Harris signed for?
Oh, I would imagine it's a mid-level contract. Like, he probably isn't in the Nathan Rourke, Zach Hilaros group, but I would think he's probably in the very high 400,000s, in hard money. So, a mid-level starter, but not breaking the bank to the point where they can't sign guys around him. And again, I haven't seen the numbers, but if I were to guess, I would think it's in the high 400s with maybe some incentives.
Yeah. In your your opinion on it, is this the best move the Riders could make at quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think that he and Mark Mueller have got a pretty good thing going. I think he really fits with how Corey Mace wants to coach this team. And I just don't think in the CFL you get a lot of full rebuilds, right, where you want to go young. There was certainly a part of me that thought it would have made sense for them to go after Vernon Adams and to be able to have like a 6 or 7 year run with Vernon Adams, who's 31 right now. I thought that made a lot of sense, but they just didn't want to have to reteach an offense and go back a step. They wanted to really build on what they had. When Trevor was healthy, he was as good a quarterback as there was in the league, and I just think it's a real fit for him at this stage of his career, and what Mason Mueller are looking for.
Yeah, Farhan, DA here. You know, we've been chatting, and to me, I look at it and go, okay, the Riders haven't been to the Grey Cup since 2013. You know, it's a 9-team league. I'm not even talking winning. I'm talking about being in it.
Yeah.
Right? 2 teams playing it. At what point, like if I look at this team and go, I want to maximize winning a Grey Cup in the next 5 years, I'm not sure this is the best decision to do that. I think at some point you need to walk away from a guy, especially at 39 years old. But again, I have no answer as to who the other guy is. It's just from a visceral reaction to go, okay, yeah, you might be the best quarterback we can have this year, but will he be the best option to win us a Grey Cup in the next 5?
Not in the next 5, but in the next 2, I think so. I do. And look, again, the other option was Vernon Adams, who I think is a very good option, but it's not like there was a big name free agent available. I mean, we can all debate Cody Fajardo. I kind of said, you tell me, DA, can you go home again, right? Like, he won a Grey Cup 2 years ago in Montreal, but, I don't know that that's necessarily the right play for him to come back to Saskatchewan. So other than that, like, who's that guy, right? Like, there's not going to be a big-time quarterback available in free agency, right? The guys we're looking at, I would expect Jake Mayer to come into Saskatchewan and be the backup for Trevor Harris, and in 2 years maybe take over as the starter, because he's still a younger option that I think has some ceiling and also has a background with Mark Mueller. But, and then I would guess that a Cody Fajardo might land in Edmonton to back up Trey Ford. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But for the next 5 years, you're not wrong. But for the next 2 years, I think Trevor Harris gives Saskatchewan as good a chance as anybody to win a Grey Cup.
I think the problem with Fajardo to Edmonton talk is the same that I feel that if there was like slivers of it about Fajardo back to Saskatchewan, because as soon as anything, like I said yesterday jokingly, as soon as Harris runs on the field wrong, people are going to be like, put in Fajardo. And that's what they're going to get in Edmonton with the young Trey Ford. You've been around the game a long time. That is an absolute detriment to what's going to go on there.
Yeah, to a point. But, has Trey Ford deserved the keys to the car full time? Like, does he deserve that opportunity on day one to come in and say, you are the guy, undisputed, full stop? I'm not sure right now. Like, I kind of am riding the fence on this a little bit, because when you look at what Drew Brown did before he got the deal last year in Ottawa and what Davis Alexander has done before he gets the deal right now in Montreal, Trey has played more games and won more games, right? But we still kind of have this doubt about where he's at floor relative to ceiling. So the difference last year is they had McLeod Bethel Thompson, and McLeod had a big salary, and he was going to be the day one starter, period. And they were talking about figuring out ways to develop Trey, but it was all kind of fiction, right? Here, I think whatever they do, I don't believe the next guy, even if it's a Cody, is going to make more hard money than Trey at the front end. So Trey will get the first team reps on day one of camp. It'll be his job to lose as opposed to what happened the other way around. But I think if you're Saskatchewan, you should be wise, or not Saskatchewan, Edmonton, they would be wise to have somebody there that you can win with. And look, Edmonton is the one place where the marketplace truly, truly wants this guy. Like, it's not like in Hamilton and Sask, they're clamoring for Trey Ford. So I'm not sure that the fan base in Edmonton, and only Edmonton, is going to jump off the bandwagon that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm in Edmonton, I'm picking someone younger than Trey. Like, I'm turning the page on this.
Younger than Trey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, at some point, you have to do Montreal. Like, what's Montreal doing here? Like, Montreal, to me...
But Trey's not old, though, DA. Trey's still a young quarterback, is he not?
I know. But to me, and maybe, Edmonton, the new owner, needs to sell some tickets this year. I get it. If Trey's really struggling. But me looking to building a team, and, like, I agree with Barney. If you bring in an older guy and Trey's struggling the first 2 games... Now, all of a sudden, you have an unknown. Whereas you want to give him see what he can do. Give him 8 games. Give Shea Pat, like the Riders, when do you move on? How do you decide to move on? When do you decide that, our chances this year I'm going to throw 15% chance with Trevor Harris of winning the Grey Cup this year. Okay, it's better. It's only 7% if Shea Patterson quarterbacks us. But then at least we know Shea Patterson's maybe not the guy, or maybe he is. But at some point you have to move on. That's
sure,
maybe
you
it's
better
Trevor's
be sure
age.
Look, at that position, DA, you better be sure of what you've got, right? So, look, you're not wrong in how you're feeling about Trevor from that perspective, from the age perspective. And there's two schools, right? Like, Mike O'Shea will keep guys well past their best before date. Wally Buono was always that guy that got rid of him 1 year early, right? And he's like, he always said to me, I'd rather get rid of a guy 1 year early than 1 year late. And he did it with players like G. Roy Simon, even, right? Just Jason Claremont and others. And Mike O'Shea completely goes the other way. And, where Jeremy O'Day and Corey Mace rest on that, we'll see. And maybe they've seen what they need to see in Shea Patterson to know he's not the guy. And we better find the next guy before we move on from this guy. So, like I said, for Edmonton, I don't believe the fan base is going to jump off the bandwagon immediately and clamor for somebody else. I think they're going to give him a really big sample size. You do not want to let Trey Ford walk out that door given his ceiling. Now, he's like this, right? Floor to ceiling. There are some players that are like this, and that's what makes coaches more comfortable. But, Ed Hervey is the guy that drafted Nathan Rourke in BC. So I don't think he's afraid to hit for ceiling, like look for ceiling. So, I think Trey Ford will get every opportunity. And I think when you look at Jordan McSimic, he had tremendous success with a young Nathan Rourke in 2022. He was the guy that turned around Vernon Adams' career, right, in 23 and 24. And I think he can have maximum success with Trey Ford. So I think Trey's in a good spot. And I think if they bring in a guy like Fajardo, they're going to tell him, look, this is the guy. Be a good soldier. And if there's an injury, because that's the other thing with Trey Ford. Trey Ford is injury prone, right? Like, he gets that. And people can say that about VA, and you wouldn't be wrong. And maybe even Trevor Harris at 39. So to have another guy in the building that if Trey gets hurt, because he's been hurt all 3 years, I'd want the insurance policy.
You want to go DA wants to go to that high school championship, but just that BC place. He wants to pull somebody from there.
That's right.
He wants to go real young.
There you go. Like Dad was saying, like young. Wow. Okay.
Let's go back to the Capital Ford Lincoln text line here, and like Rod brings up the point from Moose Jaw. And what do you think it is? The skinny with O'Shea's deal in Winnipeg. Are they playing games again, or like DA thinks he wants he wants more?
Yeah, here's the problem.
You think he wants more money or more title?
Well, with the coaches cap, they go together now, right? Is that in order for him to, I assume he's one of the highest paid head coaches, and he's been very successful, and he deserves that. For him to make the next step financially, really the only way to go is to get both titles. And so does he hold out to say, you know what, maybe I can get GM and coach and put a little bit of more cash in my pocket? I have no idea what kind of person he is. To me, that's an obvious financial carrot for him.
Fair. However, if Mike O'Shea wanted that, he could have had it years ago, right? Like, because, he's got a lot of power in that building and in that entire organization. And Kyle Walters' contract was up last year, right? Like, if Mike O'Shea wanted that, believe me, he was in the driver's seat to go get that last year. So this is just something they go through all the time. I can't imagine a world where Mike O'Shea isn't coaching the Bombers in 2025 with that team hosting the Grey Cup. Like, they're not taking a step back. So whatever Mike wants, Mike's going to get. But I don't believe he wants to get involved in acquiring personnel. He wants to have final say on the roster, which he currently has. I don't think money's an issue there. I think he's well taken care of. So it's going to get done. But, you're losing Ted Govaya, and we'll see what happens with Danny McManus. And then obviously Buck Pierce coming to BC. There are some meaningful changes that are going to happen to an organization that is generally change averse, right? Like, they like being comfortable. They like keeping the guys that they've got. So let's see what that looks like at OC and in the GM chair and the scout. Not in the GM chair. Kyle Walters will be there, but in the scouting department and what happens below Kyle Walters.
Okay, I was gonna go with the Canucks and some Four Nations. We're gonna shelf that for next. Let's go next week with that. Let's do it. Yeah,
I'm not a big Four Nations guy, manufactured events, but we'll talk Canucks whenever you want.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Okay, have fun battling through traffic. That'll be real
goodness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Marty. I thought you were my friend, man.
Well, I want a full. Yeah, there it is. There's the shirt again. I want a full recap on this Gong show. You got 3 days of it down there. All right, Farhan. Thanks so much.
See you guys.